All right, so this is going to be a modified video of a video that I was going to do, or a modified thought process of a video I was going to do in relationship to the video that I posted yesterday about stopping the violence in the black community and how there would have to be pretty much a purge, right? Even of, some of these minors, 14, 15, 16-year-old children. I ran it past Cap, and he was like, nobody's ever going to, support or co-sign that. And I said that, there does need to be a cultural understanding, but unfortunately, the black community is so fractured and broken, and we have this whole gender war dynamic, matriarchy versus patriarchy, and all these, ideas that the women have. They be the first ones not to co-sign anything like that, and for multiple reasons. But one thing that, Cap in particular did agree with me on. It's like, yeah, I'm not for this whole idea of, if you got to take out children. But he's like, nah, if you got a child that's running around the community that's actually killing other people, he's like, yeah, you would have to take that child out. Again, talking about my ideas of having some sort of defense force in the black community and handling the situation ourselves. I don't have any faith in the system of white supremacy handling, or actually bringing a real viable solution, in terms of the violence that goes on in the black community, coming from them. That would be, exacted in some, fair, and just manner. And the fact that, all of these problems stem from, the vast majority of them stem from the lack of economics in the black community. Right. We've talked about all the causes of that, the redlining and the denial of FHA loans and housing covenants, racial housing covenants and job discrimination and all that. We've talked about that. Right. So, if the white community was going to solve it, whether you want to say it should be through reparations or whether it should be, white people out of the goodness of their heart, because we're American too, and we pay whatever, however you want to see it. The fact of the matter is that, in my opinion, the majority of white people are fucked up and they're biased and they're tribal, and they're not going to solve black people's problems like that. And yes, I do feel that white people as a collective are fucked up. That is how I feel about the situation. I'm going to get into that in a second, about these comments and the different levels of energy. So I went and I found several clips. This whole case happened 7 years ago. This is the first time Cap told me about it, right? Because remember, he's originally from Detroit. He told me about it, you know what I mean? About the situation with, hitting some, a dude, white man hits a kid with the car, and then, he got his ass beat. Because we were talking about, basically this sort of vigilante justice. And we just had the Kyle Rittenhouse case, right? And a lot of black people are seeing that as vigilante justice. Now, like I said, I think that situation was self-defense. Do I think Kyle should have been there with the gun? No, he shouldn't have been there with the gun. Do I think Dominique Black should have given him the gun as a 17-year-old minor? No, I don't think that should have happened either. But you got to look at the how white people have like one white cultural consciousness. Now, I know that there's going to be white people that are going to say, no, we don't have one cultural consciousness, because if we did, we would dominate everything. And you got liberals, and then you got conservatives, and, they have disagreements on how things are going to go, but they're looking at it in a different context. At the end of the day, the fact of the matter is yes, you have different political parties, but regardless of whatever political party it is, the understanding is that it will still be the system of white supremacy. And it's the same thing as when you get into whether you're talking about, white MGTOWs or white MRAs, or you're talking about white feminists. At the end of the day, it will still be the system of white supremacy. So they're in disagreement on who gets to call the shots, but they're not in disagreement on what group should get to call the shots. That's what you got to understand. So what I noticed is, like, with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, like I said, you could almost point out what way people are going to go just based on their racial background. Now, like I said, you go on MSNBC and CNN, and you see a whole bunch of black women up there, and you see a whole bunch of the, black paid shills that are up there, jumping up and down about Kyle Rittenhouse. I was like, yeah, do I think he agitated the crowd by showing up with his rifle and all that? Yes, I do. But I'm like, not a smart thing to go chase a man down who has a rifle, or chase even a teenager down who has a rifle, and move in their direction, and as he's trying to run away from you. Not the smartest thing in the drawer. As white conservatives like to say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's how I look at that shit. But this leads into a conversation about how people are human and they will insert their own values into a situation. And this whole thing with the court case is very interesting. But getting ahead of myself, or trying not to get ahead of myself, like I said, I noticed that there's a collective consciousness when it comes to white people, and like how they felt about the guy. He was protecting his community, right? That's how they look at it, right? But when it comes to the situation where Mr. Utash got his ass beat and got put in a coma because he was driving in what clearly had to be a predominantly black community. He was a tree trimmer. And I don't know whether he was speeding or driving too fast, but he hit a 10-year-old boy with his car, broke his leg. Okay, got out the vehicle, and we don't know the details of what happened next. Some say there was an exchange of words. Some say he was just viciously attacked. In any event, a 16-year-old boy who saw the accident proceeded to attack Mr. Utash, right? Hit him. And then from there, all hell broke loose. And whether there were people outside or people were coming out of their homes or whatever it may be, they proceeded to descend upon Mr. Utash. Maybe I don't believe he just sat there and took a punch from a 16-year-old. I believe there was probably a scuffle, and people probably missed the first 10 seconds of the scuffle, and all they see is a white man, or what appears to be to them a white man, assaulting a 16-year-old. On top of, you have this 10-year-old boy in front of the vehicle with a broken leg. That's not going to be a good look. So they descend on Mr. Utash and, proceed to, pummel his ass. And he gets put in a coma, has to go to the hospital. Obviously the white community is going to scream foul and scream boo-hoo and say that, this was on these animals, these savages, same, classic, racist shit. Right. And again, I always notice the energy of white people when it comes to stuff like that, despite the fact that for decades, black men have been killed for far less when it came to them, unfortunately, being on the wrong side of town or the wrong side of the railroad tracks. And now you have a similar situation where here you have this white man who finds himself on the wrong side of the railroad tracks. And one of the things that I, said to Cap is I said, I noticed that, like, it's very difficult for white people, but like, I don't care, because it's very difficult for black people, in situations where we feel uncomfortable around white people and we don't know, I think that we have more of a cultural consciousness than white people do, but in terms of like being uncomfortable, in terms of not knowing what to say, and it's just an awkward situation. Like, there's more of them than there are of you. They say some racist shit, or one person says some racist shit. Like how are you going to call out the whole room? Right. So I don't really have a whole bunch of sympathy when it comes to, or empathy when it comes to white people in situations like that. The fact of the matter is that this nation was founded on gross inequality between the white race and the black race. And, the black people's living conditions are a direct result of the system of white supremacy. And so when you get a situation where a white guy is coming into a black neighborhood or a black community and something happens, like he runs over a child or breaks their legs, and again, I don't know what words were exchanged. Maybe Mr. Utash was apologetic. Maybe he wasn't. But if he wasn't, or if black people didn't get the type of reaction or response that they wanted because they're hypersensitive to being disrespected, not only by white men on a regular basis, but just the entirety of the whole system. Like, the attitude is like, yeah, y'all motherfuckers think that y'all can just come through and just do whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, again, in an area where black people predominate, you're standing to get your ass, beat. You are definitely in harm's way. I know there was a thing with this with EMTs, because I was an EMT at one time. And one of the things that ended up coming up, because they had a couple cases, I forget what the case was, it was years ago, a couple cases where, people would, attack first responders. And a lot of the situations where the first responders get attacked is because, let's say, the first responders tend to be white, and they'll be in a predominantly black environment. Somebody's shot, injured, or dead. Black community's already frustrated because it takes them, forever in a day to get there, half an hour to an hour to get there. Then when they do get there, they're not moving with a sense of urgency. And so, you'll have crowds that gather, and we all know how it goes. They start yelling at the ambulance crew. You ain't got to move his body like that. Any little thing will set off the crowd. Okay, especially, I'd argue a lot of the emotionalism that takes place, in the community, because you have this matriarchal single-mothered situation. And I think that you have a lot of black men that are female identified, especially when it comes to controlling their emotions. So the black men will get on the shit too. They'll be out there squawking just like the black women will be out there squawking. And that's not a good place to be with the EMT. So, some states have kind of put in rules, or like kind of unsaid rules or policies where, you go into an environment like that, you know what I mean? If there's a crowd, I don't care whether the person is dying or dead, you get them on the gurney and you get the fuck out of there, because that's what people ultimately want to see. They want to see you go in there and get them out, because as black people, we already feel disrespected. So there's always going to be, that extra energy, that coup de grace when it comes to dealing with, any sort of interaction that goes down between, us, and white folks. So behind every punch, is the legacy of slavery. Behind every kick is the legacy of Jim Crow. And the inequality that people and the conditions in which people are living under. White people they're going to sit there and try to act like they can't comprehend it, or they can't understand it, or it goes completely over their heads. But this is the reality of the situation. That's behind every punch and every kick that a black person gets on a white person. But anyway, getting on to this whole the situation I brought up about, how to stop the violence in the black community. And again, the vast majority of it could be stopped if we had access to capital and resources. But in the meantime, something is going to have to be done to stop the bleeding, to stop the immediate, hemorrhaging that's going on. And, that's where I talk about, basically my value system. And this is the whole thing with that whole court case, because it all comes down to value systems. Like, I saw a comment where, and I'll post some of these comments I saw. The majority of the comments are typical white people, Fox News type of comments. Whenever it comes to the black community, you want to talk about black men and just being the absolutely most hated group of people on in America. I could say on the planet, but in America, the most hated group of people. There is no understanding when it comes to, black men and our situation and our experience and all that. It always comes down, no matter what the conditions are. Even though, like I said, white people will sit there and they will act like, you should be able to do with $3 what it takes us $20 to do. Right? They'll sit there and talk about personal responsibility. And despite this and despite that, you should be able to come out and be this, solid citizen that falls in line and conforms to the system and the rules that we created. Right? Even though we go out of our way as white people to make sure that our kids go to the safest school and the safest environment and this, that, and the third. That all requires resources. It all requires resources. The white people will sit there and talk that, pull yourselves up by the bootstraps bullshit, but they make sure that their kids are in a particularly nice area. They're not raising their kids just any old where and then saying, if my son comes out fucked up, that's his own fault because, personal responsibility. So what that you're going to a 1-star school and yet you're in a high crime area and that there's drugs all over the place. So what? Personal responsibility, right? But they go out there and they, make sure that they try to put their kids in the best environment that they can afford as parents. And I'm talking about, the parents that are reasonably decent. We had the whole thing with the white parents out there in California trying to sneak their kids into universities and everything. They do everything in their power to give their kids a leg up and an advantage. Right? And when it comes to black people, yes, we do have a problem with, black people who just have like this hopelessness paralysis as parents to where like they bring children into the world, but then don't put in the same effort so that their kids can be competitive. It's kind of like a mixed bag. It's all over the place. Some people do, some people don't. But what I notice about white people is white people, like when you look at the comments and stuff, and there were even some what I would consider coonish black people in the comment section. They always let the defendant be black. There's always, and give him the maximum, give him the chair. Where's the rope? All this energy, right? And when you look at the whole situation, right, they go, Kyle Rittenhouse was protecting his community, right? And the left says, it's vigilantism. And here you got these, 12 people. I've seen some articles that said up to 20 people, but it's 12 people. They only caught 5 from the ages 35 down to 16. And the judge gave the youngest ones the most lenient sentences. The oldest one got 6 years, but he had some priors, so that's why he got jammed up. Like, you should know better. But the kids, your friend or your brother or whatever gets ran over by a car and you're a teenager and then you go and you jump in on the fight. That's what kids do. There was a comment by, I believe to be a white guy. He threw a punch at somebody. And again, it's always the same thing. It's like white people got to go through the system to have some sort of understanding. And white people always act like they're levitating above everybody else. And this is why you end up with a situation where, it's like white people, be a white criminal and you ain't shit. I mean, you become an honorary nigga. That's just how it's treated. But anyway, so this white guy, he said when he was 16, he punched somebody and they hit the ground and ended up being in a coma. And he said, this kid is just 19, or didn't say kid, but, young. He's just 19, which is 2 years older than Kyle Rittenhouse. But he's just 19. And he's like, I doubt that he's going to do this, again, one of these first time offender, type of situations, which is probably another, the judge said point blank that the reason why he was lenient on the sentence was because of his age and what was the other word that he used? It was age and something else. I forget exactly what it was, but age was definitely one of the reasons that he cited. I forget what the other word that he said. It was age and something else. But anyway, I'm saying that all the other white people in the comment section, no compassion. You know, the way that they look at it, and a pack of savage niggas came out and attacked this old white man who was, I think he was like 50, anywhere from 54 to 58, something like that. Attacked. He was attacked. It was a vicious attack, right? And it's like no mention that he ran over a 10-year-old kid. You know what I'm saying? No mention of the shit. John Gotti's neighbor ran over his son, and, you know, we ain't seen him since. Went missing. And see, this is the whole thing with, like, getting back to the whole people invoking their own value systems, right? The judge invoked his own values. He said, you never had a dad there to beat your ass and basically check you, which is clearly what you needed. He got a judge, right? A judge talking about corporal punishment, parents beating the ass of the child, right? And we live in this litigious society where, oh my God, your parents hit you? Oh, DIFUS. Right? But here the judge is saying, nah, chances are you needed your ass beat. And there was some other things that during the trial, the judge was, getting on his ass about having his hands in his pocket, because he recognized, the judge at least recognized, this white man recognized, like, the problem with this young man is he didn't have any guidance. He just kind of tagged along with the situation. Once the situation unfolded, he just, jumped in. But even the prosecutor invoked her own values. And I'm going to tell you where she fucked up. And a couple other people in the comment section, I saw 2 comments from 2 white people, a white woman and a white man. One, I think he's British, identified the same thing that Captain Solo and I did. Because when I was talking to Cap, I sent him the link and I said, "Nah, watch the video. I need you to get the full context and the tone of this woman." And there's another comment that highlights the fact they're like, "I seen this woman before. This is what she does. She fights with judges. That like she's known for the shit." Okay? And so she fights with judges. And I'm going to tell you, like, the thing that stuck out to us is when he said, the judge responded when she rudely interrupted, as he called it. The judge said, what am I saying? The judge said, I didn't bring up race. I've never seen the race card play. This is like a reverse race card. He was like, I didn't even bring up race. He brought up the point that the boy didn't have a father, and therefore, was insinuating that he didn't have any guidance. And that's why he was going with the lenient route. But as soon as she heard, him bring up the fatherless and, what his situation at home was, the black female prosecutor, went into attack mode, right? And when he said, I didn't even bring up race, she's like, well, that doesn't matter. I'm like, you talking to the judge. Is he in charge of the courtroom, or are you? And see, this is where the problem of the black woman comes into play. We've talked about this for years, of this attitude of black women thinking that they're supposed to run shit. Cap, in, I'd say, the last couple of weeks or so, 3-4 weeks, with the whole thing with Jada, the whole thing with Brittany Renner, the whole thing with Karazin and her divorce, the whole thing with even Six the Goddess, where she has a piece where she says, I couldn't leave well enough alone. She could have been on a cruise. She had some well-to-do black man she was already a single mother at the time. And, guy was basically like, you're everything that I want. All I need for you to just play this role. You know what I mean? You don't have to work, none of that stuff. Play this role. I'm gonna take care of your son. And like she said, I could have been on what she say? I could have been in Monaco on a yacht somewhere, but I could not leave well enough alone. That came out of Six the Goddess's own mouth. Then you got Karazin, right? I've won, right? Remember when she did that video with the whole situation when she was crying about the Veganator, and we see what happened with her marriage. White man came through, married her as a single mother, took on a daughter that he could clearly never pass off as his own. And that situation ended in divorce. You got Brittany Renner up there talking about, What If I Was Meant to Shine on Kevin Samuel's show. You have who's the other one that I said? Jada Pinkett with Will Smith. Constantly won't shut up about her love for Tupac and not being sexually satisfied. Goes on national television to sit up there with a white woman, talk about Gwyneth Paltrow, about how Will's not, he ain't, doing the damn thing or whatever. Embarrassing her husband, ends meeting like a motherfucker. And, Cap just pretty much said like he done with the shit. And this is where, the whole value system thing comes on multiple levels, because there's invoking your value system and also what it is that you value. And clearly none of these women value, the patriarchal concepts that, him and myself, believe. That there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no reward, at least on the male end of the spectrum. And so when a lot of black women, they want to cite all these other things about why you have black men walking away and not choosing them, which is an irritation where Umar Johnson was talking about brothers need to pick black women and all this other stuff. And I'm like, not even examining whether they have the same value system. When I say marriage, I'm thinking patriarchal household, traditional oriented patriarchal household. When black women think marriage, they're literally thinking the wedding, the validation that they get out of the wedding, and that it's going to be some sort of 50-50 pseudo matriarchal setup in the household. That's what a lot of them think. And they keep showing it and putting it on full display for the world. And this lawyer, Miss Lindsay or whatever her name is, she pulled this bullshit. What's so funny is, so the judge obviously injected his own values. Yeah, you needed to follow the beat your ass, despite the fact what the law says about nobody should be putting hands on anybody. But yeah, you needed a daddy in your life that was beating your ass and putting you in check so that you wouldn't be out here doing this shit. Right? And then she invoked her own value system with speaking back to the judge the way that she was speaking back to the judge. I mean, first off, she should have stopped as soon as he said, I didn't even bring up race. I didn't say anything about the boy being black. I'm talking about him not having a father. She's the one that brought up race. So she threw the race card on the table, not to somehow exonerate the young man, but to, further reinforce that he should be charged to the maximum of the law. Again, one of the youngest people that were there, 35-year-olds in the mix. But, he's culpable, 19 years old. Give him the maximum? Make him a felon for the rest of his life because he jumped in on a mob attack? That's literally how she used the quote unquote race card that the judge didn't even bring up. He brought up fatherless home. She immediately just skipped to young black men with no father. It's like, whoa. I didn't even say that. She should have stopped right there. But no. She continued to overtalk the judge. I was waiting for Kevin Samuel's head to pop up. Are you over talking me? I was waiting for Kevin Samuels to hit the mute button. And she just kept on talking, kept on pressing. And this is what's so funny. It's like, so here we have a situation where she's mad that this young man is not respecting the laws. Right? But yet she can't even respect the authority of the court. She's just going to interject, like he said, as you rudely interrupted me. And then now you're going to proceed to talk over me. She's invoking her own values right there in the courtroom. You see, we can talk about what the laws are and all that other shit, but the fact of the matter is people are human and they invoke their own value system. It goes back to the video that Jason Williams did. I don't know if you watch Jason Williams, but Jason Williams is, again, one of these, felon channels where they talk about their experiences in prison. And Jay Williams has a video where he had a female friend that got raped. And when he found out about it, He grabbed the girl, went to the location of where this attack took place, asked the dude, like, what happened? Why is she crying? The dude tried to do some bullshit explaining, and he blasted the dude right through the window, dragged him out, beat his ass some more, left him a bloody pulp. Dude or somebody ended up calling the cops. The cops pull up, and he's walking down the street with the little girl, and covered in blood. You know what I mean? Cops arrest him. Little girl starts crying. They're like, what happened? He's not saying anything. You can find the video. He's not saying anything. I'll see if I can find it and put it in the link in the description box. But Jay Williams is a white dude. He's not saying anything. And, because, whatever. He don't want to snitch or whatever. The girl that got sexually assaulted, she opens her mouth and says what happened. And once the cops figure it out, they sort it out, they uncuff him, and they just kind of, I think he said, like, they gave him a look or whatever, and he went on his merry way. They're like, wait a minute. So the guy that we found all bloody and beat up and everything, you beat his ass because he sexually assaulted this girl. Oh, that's all I need to hear. Uncuff this man, and he went on his way. You see what I'm saying? Like, again, that's their own. That was illegal for them to do. That's their own discretion. Same thing, I think it was down there in Florida. You had that guy that, I'm going to see if I can find that clip too. The sheriff, he had a guy who found and I don't know if y'all probably seen this guy's face. He looked like he was Filipino or something. I don't know. He looked kind of Asian to me, but anyway, lips swollen like a mug. You know what I'm saying? Face swollen. The father, apparently the father found him in his daughter's bedroom and beat his ass to a bloody pulp. Okay. And when the sheriff was like, as far as I'm concerned, the father did what he was supposed to do. I'm not pressing any charges. They were like, are you going to press charges? Sheriff? And the sheriff was like, I'm not pressing any charges. And that's the end of that. You see, and so I look at the situation, and it's the whole thing. This woman, as the prosecutor, invoking her own value system in the court, right? What she feels, should be happening, completely ignoring the authority of the judge. You feel this way and you're about to be some lenience, but I got to speak on this. Out of turn. And I'm like, it's the same thing as, again, how white people feel about the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. Let's face it. Majority of white people, they didn't care about what the law was. They cared about the sentiment. They were like, nope. All these rioters were burning down neighborhoods and communities and businesses. And Kyle, in the spirit of protecting his own community, he took up arms and just so happened to blow 2 people away. So the fuck what? Because that is our value system that we support. And I'm like, okay, so what's the difference between that and what happened with this Mr. Utash that ran over the 10-year-old boy and broke his leg with his vehicle? What's the difference? You in a black community, you hit a 10-year-old child with your vehicle and break his leg. Now, again, I don't know if there was an exchange of words or not, but the community proceeds to beat your ass. And let me emphasize, the community of men proceeds to beat your ass. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say that it was all about protecting the community. I'm willing to say that there was probably a whole bunch of ego in there too, as there pretty much always is when it comes to male. But I'm not saying that that was the sole reason. It wasn't just purely ego. I'm saying ego, I believe, was a part of it. You see? But what I notice about black women in all the years I've been online is they always try to regulate the interactions between men. You don't know how men get down. You get all this talk. We don't know how to raise boys. You can't put that on the mother. We don't know how to raise boys. Right? But then when men interact with other men and men handle situations dealing with other men, whether interracially or intraracially, here comes the black woman got something to say about it. Here you got a situation where, again, a child was harmed. Somebody's child, some black woman's child was ran over by a white man in a vehicle. okay, or hit with the vehicle to the point that the child, his leg was broken, which says to me that the vehicle went over the child. The child's foot had to be caught underneath the vehicle at some point in order for his leg to be broken. Either that or he just flipped over the damn hood of the car or something like that. Okay? So, here you have a situation where a woman's child, I'm gonna put it in that context, was harmed, and some other men in the neighborhood was like, oh no, this ain't gonna go down like this. And so they proceed to dish out some whoop ass. Now we could say it might have been too much because the man ended up in a coma, but the man did not die. He could have died, but he didn't die. But yet, look at how it's being interpreted by the prosecutor, which makes you ask or beg the question. It's like, damn, bitch, like, whose side are you on? Now, I know some people want to be like, well, we're all Americans and da 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 da, but that's not the way it plays out. Okay? It was never we're all Americans, in all the long history of black men being lynched for bullshit. Emmett Till being lied on for supposedly whistling on a white woman, that the white woman that the whole story revolved around admitted on her deathbed was made up. So when white people get into their typical birth of a nation, oh, these black savages and everything, spare me your tears. Spare me your tears. But I'm looking at the prosecutor, I think of the whole situation, Coleon Noir going up there with Killer Mike, Joy Reid coming out of her mouth. How dare you have a sit down, Killer Mike, with Coleon Noir? Oh, let me say his government name. You know what I mean? Hopefully he gets fucked up. How dare you sit down with Coleon Noir, to have a conversation? Don't you know he's affiliated with the NRA? Don't you know he's the enemy? See, the whole problem with the matriarchy, the matriarchal setup, and all this shit that we see with all the behavioral shit going on with black women is they not only believe that shit should be on their terms, but they believe that, that their value system should take precedent. I'm saying, truth be told, there isn't much of a difference between my attitude of, the violent criminals in the community need to be purged, and her attitude of, again, as a woman, this is how a woman is going to handle the situation, right? We need to lock them all up and throw away the key. Those are very similar takes, if you ask me, right? Her take is not much different than my take, you see. But the part that I can't comprehend is her not understanding. Well, no, I take that back because it makes sense, because the goal is for shit to be on her terms. And this goes back to the whole problem. I mean, even in fixing the problem, even if I talk about the economics in the community to have the necessary financial wherewithal to fix, these problems. I mean, we got a whole community of women that have the attitude like, they should be in charge, and therefore, we could talk about more resources in the hands of black men, but, they recognize that resources allow them to have more, power in the community, and that's the way that they want to be. So again, we're back to, it's not even a viable solution. Like, what should be the solution isn't a viable solution for where we are right now. It's just not. I mean, I was making a joke to Cap, or actually, Cap made the joke, but it's like even talking about, my approach to dealing with Ray Ray and Pookie in the community. It's like, he's like, think about it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, what would you have them do? Somebody brought up that scene in Lean on Me where Morgan Freeman's character, basically brought all the bad kids into the auditorium and then said, all of you are expelled. And the women were like, oh, I think you're doing too much. Oh, that's too drastic. And that's typically what happens. You know what I mean? If like, again, see, the problem is it's not so much like, I say her and I are trying to do the same thing. I say purge. She says lock them up and throw away the key. Right. But Even if I go in there and I purge, which the problem is still being dealt with, and the bad apples are being dealt with, right? The problem is that it didn't go her way. So the problem becomes the fact that, who am I to set the tone? Who am I to set the pace? That's where the friction comes in. That's where the whole attitude and the whole idea of, black women running interference comes into play. Because they will run interference. Like I said, I got ahead of myself, but like the joke that Kat was making, it's like, yeah, what would you have us do? You want me to, okay, some black woman got slapped or something like that. Okay, you want me to now go in there, with gun control in the background. You want me to go in there and handle Ray Ray Pookie while you have his dick in your mouth. You want me to go in there and handle the same motherfucker that you're fucking. Like, okay. You want me to go in there and handle the same individual that you're having babies by. Like, okay. You see, it's not so much about actually solving the problem. It's more about the solution must be on the terms of the queens. We saw this with the Ice Cube and the whole, the contract with Black America with Claudia Jordan and Vivica Fox up there. And actually it was Claudia Jordan. And where are the black women? I was like, I said that you could put what you want in this document about what the needs of black women are. When I say black people, does that not include black women? Like, what the fuck? I mean, just all the attitude and the energy that man was getting. And see, this is where shit is like, it's too far gone. Because the fact of the matter is, you have people, look, fixing the black community starts with economics. But even if I go in there and I talk about, you need to go in there and purge, like, that would have to be a must as well. Because there's certain people, men and women, who are so entrenched in the culture, in the way that things have been for so long, that, they're not going to, they're not just going to, like, bend thy knee. You know what I mean? They're not going to just accept, what you're doing. No, they thrive in that environment. They like the new definitions of things, even though, truth be told, it's really just boundless and structureless. Which is why, you have these ideas of women getting wet off of a man moving her with his words without actually having, tangible things in place. But we already have pointed out how quickly that can fall apart. Those relationships fall apart. Because you cannot operate on potential or words alone forever. But, the whole, just the whole concept of black men being in charge, running the community. We have so many women in the black community that are so resistant to that concept and those ideas. It's insane. But yet, just like white supremacy, they want you to take on, all of the responsibility or all of the accountability, with none of the independence or none of the power. It's just a matter of fall in line and do things to my specifications. And that's what I see highlighted, with this whole prosecutor. I mean, it's like, we know about the inequality. We know about the injustice. This is why you'll end up with black people that just completely just ignore the facts and everything because, they're trying to make up for past transgressions to the point that, like, they would be willing to let a murderer off, that all the evidence is there. They're like, no, he should go free. He should go free because of the historical context of racism. I don't take that shit that far. I'm like, no. Now y'all taking shit too far. This ain't the one. This isn't the case or the hill that I'm trying to die on. I'm like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? But if there's reasonable doubt, or we see disparities in how things are being treated, the optics of shit and everything, hey, I'm right there with you. You know what I'm saying? Kyle Rittenhouse, granted, yeah, he shot, two white men. This was an interracial thing, but again, black people somehow vicariously live through a child molester and a white burglar, which is so stupid about the left. I'm like, really? These are your heroes? You know what I'm saying? And even the other guy with the skateboard, he had some other issues going on. I think he had like some psychotic issues going on. But, again, I'm not saying that any of these people were like, I don't want to say that. It's like, sometimes, and I'm not going to talk about white compassion, for them and everything, but I'm just like, we really do have a fucked up system where it's like, if somebody does a crime, we just, they're just, nope, unredeemable. That's it. That's all there is to it. Like, there is absolutely no reform. It doesn't matter what the race is. There is no reform. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and white people get so anti, oh, they're a criminal, that they'll even do that shit to other white people. They will just, nope, you're a criminal. You are honorary black person. Like that's literally how they treat it. Like, blackness is synonymous with criminality. And if you're white and you commit a crime, you're just as bad as they are. Which again is more concepts of white supremacy, that white people are these just angels that float around, that live to the highest, moral standard, and that, everybody else should aspire to be like them. That is what white supremacy is. That white people are supreme. But like I said, like I look at this situation and I'm like, man, this shit is 5 compartments, man. You just add it all up. You add the disrespectful disposition. You add the fact that, what we perceive to be the actual solution, which is men being in a particular position. Like, again, I keep saying it, these women do not want black male leadership. They want black male responsibility, but not leadership. You know what I'm saying? How even when it comes to handling a situation, which would have ultimately a very similar outcome. It's like, okay, the goal is what? To stop the violence in the community? Okay, well, I don't really give a fuck how we get there. You know what I'm saying? Women are going to do it their way. Women can't go in and muscle some shit. So women are going to come with other ways of doing, appeal to other patriarchies, appeal to white men, appeal to the court system, appeal to the powers that be. That's what women are going to do. As men, I'm not, first off, that's going to, like that's in the direct opposition of my own manhood. I'm not going to fucking go appeal to another race of men to handle problems going on in my own community. Yes, I know that ultimately the conditions that persist in America, in the black community, are caused by the system of white supremacy. And then see, that leads to but at the same time, I'm like, I still need to handle these issues. You're saying, because if I'm gonna establish myself as the alpha male of the community, I'm saying collectively, with the other so-called good men, then you gotta be known for that shit. You gotta be the face of it. Because Cap used to always come with what happens if a motherfucker just disappears? And I'm like, but then you're not gonna get the credit for, and people knowing, like, yeah, those motherfuckers are not the ones to be fucked with. You see, that's the whole problem with doing shit like some. I'm like, no, like again, when that white girl went missing out there in Utah and shit like that, man, they sent everybody. They sent a very powerful message to white women that we will find you. We will search high and low until we find you. They sent a very powerful message. And the other problem that arises, and this is why another reason why women interfere, and even some black men don't interfere with the shit, because the problems that black people have start and originate in racism and white supremacy in America. A lot of when we're tackling the problems, the people that commit crimes in the black community and everything else, there's always a level of sympathy, for those black people. And I'm not going to sit there, again, it's your own value system. I'm not going to try to impose my value system on other people, but I do think that we need to reach, a general cultural community consensus and understanding. Yes, the system of white supremacy is the reason why you'll have a black man that goes out there and is drug dealing and shoots another black man. So when we say we don't want drugs in our community, if I go up there and I say we need to purge these, we need to purge these assholes like Mao Zedong, there's always going to be people that's going to be like, hey, well, he's doing what he's doing because he's got to put food on the table. He's doing what he's doing because the system is so unfair and one-sided. You know what I mean? Like in other words, it's like there's people who need to be purged because they're evil and because they're savages in the community. I don't dispute the fact that it may originate from having a broken, fucked up childhood, dad's kicking the mom across the room and then beating the kid when he tries to say, no, stop, don't hit mama, and everything else. And he grows up to be a very angry, savage, murderous individual in the community. I'm not disputing that. Okay? But again, if I got women, my wife and child in the community, it's like that whole situation with the bikers in New York. I don't know if y'all remember a couple years ago, you had the bikers in New York. And they had the Chinese guy, he was in the car, and the guy tried to brake check him on the bike. And they surrounded his truck, his Range Rover, he was a lawyer, with the bikes. And he ran one over. And, Cap had a few words about that, and he was just like, yeah, it's a sticky situation. He's like, but I'm going to be real. He's like, if I got my wife and my child in the car, and a bunch of bikers surround the vehicle, and I feel that their safety, it would have been a whole bunch more bikers that would have got ran over that day. It's just that simple. I got my wife and kids in the car, you're going to get run over. And so, again, we can talk about the compassion and the bleeding hearts and all that other shit, but if I'm in a community and there's some savage running around the community and everything, and I got wife and kids in the community and everything else, I can't say what needs to happen for, YouTube purposes, but, something needs to happen. You see what I'm saying? People can tell me, oh, but the person was this and they were that and da-da-da-da, and they had a hard upbringing and everything else. There's a point where you got to draw the line in the sand. And a lot of black people really struggle to do that, because you start talking about purging or whatever, you talking about locking up with women's sons and locking up cousins and friends and shit like that, and telling you, going to be a lot of people like, no, not my friend, not my child, not my daughter, not my son, but again, like, see, white people, they make it real easy. They excommunicate people when they become criminals in the white community. You are no longer a member of the white community, and you're a criminal. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they do to white people that are criminal. Black people, because at the end of the day, it's white people's system. So they can excommunicate anybody, and at the end, seriously speaking, what is a white criminal going to blame his situation on? The system of white supremacy? Hey, man, what'd you get arrested for? Oh, man, I got arrested for burglary. I'm like, man, damn, man. How long did they give you, man? They gave me 17 years. Well, damn, that seems like a lot. Yeah, man, racism. Like, for real? Racism? That's why you white, right? Yeah. Oh, racism is the reason why you got 17 years for burglary. Yeah, man, because this whole system is racist. Like, that's not going to fly. That's not going to fly. Where with a black man, hey, well, how'd you get 17? Man, the system is racist. That might be true. The prosecutor was white, or the judge was white. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying, and this is a rare situation where the judge was actually being lenient. And here you got the black prosecutor jumping up and down. So, like, you could have a black prosecutor that's white identified. You could have a black cop that's white identified. This sort of shit goes on because in the system of white supremacy, a lot of times, just like they do on Fox News, they're going to put in the no mercy for black people, Candace Owens thinking type of black people. You know what I mean? That's why, like, that's the slickness of it all, right? Well, it's not racist. The judge was black. But if the judge was on some, I'm not like those other blacks and I'll prove it. If he's one of those, like, oh, you're going to get it worse than if it was a white judge that was up there. That's the crazy part. Because it's just like, anytime you get a black cop in an all-white police department, that's always the cop that's being mad extra. That's always the cop that's throwing extra bows and extra knees and everything, trying to show how down he is because he has to prove it every day because he is not white. So he's got to prove to the other white officers that, yeah, man, I'm down. And the next thing you know, he's wearing the camouflage hat with the American, freaking patch on the front of it and shit, and running around talking about how he's a white redneck and shit like that, like or black redneck and shit like that, and doing all type of shit that black people don't typically do. They got to coon out. You know what I mean? They got it. They show. I'm conservative in every way except for skin color. They do all that extra shit. But I'm saying, to get back to the point, these are the things that come up. That people are going to be like, well, you don't go too hard because at the end of the day, we got this looming shadow of the system of white supremacy and the unfairness of the system looming over our head. So where if we were in Wakanda or if we were in Africa or Nigeria or some other country or something like that, people could, there's no other entity to point to. Hey man, I had to sell drugs because, I got a felony when I was, freaking 19 and I can't get a job. They won't hire me. They throw my resume in the trash can, So I got to do what I got to do. And the ops came and I shot my gun to protect myself and I killed another black man. And I know that's somebody else's son, but, better him than me. There's a lot of black people that'll be like, yeah, that's true. Like, it's like, damn, it's like, I came here to purge your ass, but now I feel bad for you. I totally understand because this system is indeed fucked up and unfair and unjust and racially biased. These little tiny acts of fucking, let's give a little bit of leniency. Like the boy is still doing 6 months and friggin' 3 years probation. It's not like he got off scot-free. But I'm saying that act of leniency doesn't make up for 350 years of slavery and Jim Crow. I know these white people, when they try to come in the room and be like, see, the system's not racist because of one random act of a white judge. They'll try to pull that bullshit. But these are the problems. Like these are the issues that we have. And it's like, even if I go in it, yes, we must purge. And I purge out stop the immediate violence that's going on in the community right now, especially in cities like Philadelphia. I'm still in an environment where people are unemployed and underemployed. And people are in desperate situations, which facilitates the overwhelming vast majority of the crime. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, do crime or starve. Pick one. Everybody talk about all these kids being so young and everything. I'm like, I keep telling you, go online and try to find I don't feel like doing all the work, but I'm saying go online and find articles about how many black children in inner cities are raised by grandparents. You'll be amazed. There are a lot of way more than any other racial group. There are way more black teens being raised by their grandparents as opposed to their dysfunctional parents. That's way more prevalent in our community than other communities. So it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can look at it for what it is. Like, and I'll use even two mixed people. Obama, raised by his grandparents. Brittany Renner, raised by her grandparents. You see what I'm saying? And I'm like, and then you get to, full black people. Like, come on, man. You already know what time it is. You already know kids right now in your neighborhood that are being raised by their grandparents and shit like that. Small children being raised by grandparents that aren't going to be here in the next 10 years. How many rappers you hear talking about Big Mama's house? Raised by the grandparents, because not only was their mama dysfunctional, their father was dysfunctional. Typically, mama's on drugs and dad's in jail, or mom's dysfunctional in some way and dad's in jail. Even Keisha Cole, When Keisha Cole did her series, where did she go and visit her mama? That's right, jail. And her mother recently passed away, but she visited her mama in jail. Her mother was a jailbird. So when you see, her and her ghetto sister and all that shit, and how they act and behave, it's not a surprise. It's not like they had the most stable foundation in the world. But I mean, it's like black people say that they we want a better, brighter, safer community and everything else. But we don't really know how to get there. The women are going to say, lock them all up. The men are going to say, nah, some people need their ass beat or they need to be put in dirt. But the one thing that keeps remaining is this whole fight between black men and black women about on whose terms it should be done or whose values should be the defining values of the community. And like I said, a lot of the shit that the women talk, it doesn't work because the responsibility, even underneath matriarchy, is still put on men. If the men don't, they're still running around, even in matriarchy, asking men to do, well, if you were shaming tactics and all, if you were a real man, you would stop Pookie from doing this. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't get past you with all that dick and swag that he's got wrapped around your head. What with his dick in your mouth, I can't get past all that's blocking me. I'm sorry, I can't get to him while you're sitting on his lap. Could you get off of his lap so I can handle this situation? And then again, that whole aspect of dealing with a situation, on a woman's terms, and then stay trying to think that, I'm the boss here. And that's the crazy thing. And here you got a white judge and you got this black woman prosecutor. They both work for the state, and she's just in there, I'm the boss. Like I said, I pulled the receipts. So, people who are very familiar, they're like, there's a white lady saying that shit. She was like, I don't like this lady. Yeah, let me. What do I do with the pictures? I'll read the quote just in case I don't have to put it. She says, this is Angela H. She says, I can't stand that prosecutor. Every case I've seen her prosecute, I can't stand how she acts. She acts like she runs the courtroom. This one's from Nikki Langley. He says, Jesus, she would never have got away with that in the English court. She would face disciplinary action and run the risk of being struck off. And then the third comment, this is different. I didn't even realize I had this comment. This is SCP 0001, SCP-0001, Objective Class Keter/ELE. And he says, and these comments are all within a year, even though this case is like 7 years ago. So I guess it's coming up in people's timelines. But this person says, Lindsay has a reputation of fighting with judges, which is not exactly a bright idea for the prosecution to do. And I'm sure there's some other most of the comments in here are like, yeah, give him the chair. We agree with her. Yeah, she's a prosecutor. Yeah, which, like I said, white people don't give that same energy when it comes to, white teens or white youth being convicted of any particular crime. They don't come with that same energy. You'll see, like I told you, those kids that threw that big ass ice ball over the overpass and killed that white man who was driving on the highway. Oh, the comments were so mild. It was insane. I mean, they always come whenever it's white criminals. The comments are mild as fuck. Oh, those punks, they need to, do better. Just that. But whenever it comes to black youth and them committing a crime, a mild crime at that, it's all type of get the rope, hang him from the highest tree, we should have kept him in chains, send him back to Africa, the problem is Black Lives Matter, the problem is defunding the police, the problem is These kids, they're just lazy. They don't want to work. I mean, it's all this. Oh, it's a black pathology. White criminality can be reformed. Black criminality is a pathology. And I'm saying to me it's a racist statement, but I wouldn't disagree with the concept that it's a pathology when you have that criminal activity that exists due to the inequalities of the system. Yeah, I guess white kids are redeemable, if, people pull some strings or overlook the fact that they have some criminal background or whatever, which I have seen happen. It doesn't always happen, but I'm saying white people are in a position of power to make it happen. And I'm not also going to sit there and pretend like I've never seen a white guy give a black criminal a chance. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've never seen it. But by and large, due to tribalism, due to white people being, the dominant members of society, you're going to see more of them that are going to give, people, in their own community, the benefit of the doubt, especially if they share the same, ethnicity within the right white race. Like Italians will look out for Italians, or Irish will look out for Irish and whatnot. Because Cap has pointed out the fact that a lot of the stagehands that he's seen, these guys are making $200,000 in Manhattan being stagehands, and some of them have felonies. And they gotta, is all this, network shit, because they know how much they're making. And so, a lot of those guys, they dish out those jobs on the basis of, doing favors. Like, let's say a cop gets fired from one police department and he's applying for another police department, but he has to kind of, sit out for a while, and he's, got to make ends meet in the meantime. Oh yeah, they'll give that guy, a job, and he'll be making 200,000 as a or maybe like in the 150s or something like that as a stagehand. And then, when he's done with that and okay, I got another job as a cop and everything else. All right, now that since I hooked you up and now that you're a cop now, yeah, I got a couple tickets, I need to disappear. Can you make that happen? You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, value systems, people bending rules when they want to bend the rules. This is why you get a lot of black people that are just like, man, fuck the white man and the white man system and all this shit. I'm going to do what I want, because they see the shit. They see the bending of the rules and all that stuff. On some Neo in the Matrix shit. Some rules can be bent, others can be broken. They see that. So they're like, man, fuck it. But I thought the whole case was interesting. Yonks 85 sent me the clip. I'd never seen it before, but I was just totally blown away with the energy of the prosecutor. You know what I mean? Like, so what do you want this boy to get a stiffer penalty, be marked as a felon? He's only 19 and he's going to be a felon for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? And this is the whole problem with the system. So he's 19, jumped in a fight with other people, even though there were other grown adults there, right, who got stiffer penalties. But you're going to take this 19-year-old kid, right, throw the book at him. Now he's a felon. And now his life is pretty much, ruined. Can't go to college. Can't get federal loans. Can't fill out the FAFSA. They got all type of shit, in those loans, and they've changed the rules, from what I hear, over the years. They've changed the rules on the shit. Like, I think it's like now, like if you have a marijuana charge, you can't get student loans. I mean, it's just crazy shit. So it's like, whoa, why can't they turn their life around? Why do they resort to a life of crime? I'm like, he got a felony at 19. So you somehow expect him to what? Be able to do what you do and get a decent job and move into a nice home and provide for his kids and become a contributing taxpayer member of society. Like, people want to throw the book at him, and then they're complaining about where all our tax dollars are going. How come our tax dollars? You should have kept them in jail. Completely ignoring the fact that the tax dollars are going where? Where are the tax dollars going? To the prison industrial complex. Not to having somebody be a contributing taxpayer to society by giving them, a second chance. Because once you get a felony, and this is the whole problem with felony and why you need prison reform and all that other shit. Once you get a felony, you're done. And the way that it should be, seriously speaking, there has to be some sort of path to recovery. It should be, you get a felony, if you're clean for a certain period of time and you don't have it doesn't show up on your criminal record, like, it's done. It gets erased. It gets wiped. You know what I mean? Make whatever period it is. 5 years, whatever. If you want to make it a certain amount, if you're a violent felony, you got to be clean for 10 years. If you're a non-violent felon, you got to be clean for 5 years. You know what I mean? Whatever the rules are, I'm just saying there needs to be a pathway. And right now, there's no pathway. And part of the reason why nobody cares about the pathway is because they see becoming a felon as a black thing. You know what I mean? And you find this out when you see these videos of some of these white women that even have channels that are just like, I didn't know that this happened when you become a felon. I can't even get an apartment. Like it's like sitting there. It's like, oh, you didn't know. Oh, now you're discovering how much becoming a felon fucks your shit up. That's what's just so like nobody cares when they think it's a black thing until they get caught up in the system. Just like my colleague of mine that got the domestic charge. And I'm just like, I'm like, you got the domestic charge, and he's like, shit, I might as well be a felon the way that they treated domestic charge. Again, and nobody cares about the details. Nobody cares about the fact that he walked in the kitchen with a whole folder of fucking messages on some Chris Hansen shit and was like, well, here, you said that you were going to suck his dick and da-da-da-da. And she was like, no, it didn't. That wasn't me. He's like, bitch, don't lie to me. You know what I mean? He's slapping her up and everything, calls 911, and then next thing you know, he's fucked. Prohibited person. Can't own a firearm. Does that am I like, it's like, am I scared of him having a gun because, he'll go out there and shoot somebody? Fuck no, I'm not worried about that shit. No, he lost his cool because his fucking wife was cheating on him right after they had a newborn baby. And he had the evidence. I mean, I'm like, damn, man, I don't know. I get the whole thing knowing about she's cheating on you, but you actually went through and read all of her messages to the other dude about all the nasty shit they were going to do to each other. I'm like, oh man, why'd you torture yourself like that? God damn, man. I mean, so he was ready for her to lie to him. Bitch, don't fucking lie to me. I mean, I'm not going to lie. The story was kind of funny when he told me, you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I was like, you pulled a Chris Hansen? He's like, yeah, I pulled a Chris Hansen. I read that. I read her messages back to her. She tried to run out the kitchen and go in the other room and shit. And then when I confronted her about it, she even tried to lie to me. I'm like, bitch, it's right here. Because he basically put some keystroke software on her computer so he could see everything, her logins, everything that she typed and whatnot. And then he got the login, went on the Facebook, and then went to the messenger and then pulled up all the fucking messages from the messenger. I was like, oh, shit. He paid I think it was like $108 or $180 for the software that he got from some private investigator. He was like, I think my wife is cheating on me. I want to know, And I'm like, man, I don't know if you should have read all that shit, but then I guess I would have read it too. But fuck, man. I mean, that's just, it's bad enough. It's like, yes, she's cheating on you. You're cheating on me. Like, that's bad. But it's like, do you want to walk in on somebody, walk in on them cheating on you, or read the messages back and forth, which your name may come up in there, well, I'm just not satisfied with my husband, or I'm just, he doesn't make me happy, and you make me more happy than he ever did, just sit. Do I want to read that? Oh, I don't know, man, I don't know about all that, so, him not being in the right state of mind when that shit happened, do I blame him? Fuck no. You know what I mean? I don't, but see, again, fairness, giving it context, all that stuff. I know you're going to have the feminists. A man should never hit a woman. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. A man should never hit a woman. But are there reasons for hitting a woman? Oh, you goddamn right. There's reasons. It's just, you just can't do it. But there's definitely some reasons. Don't sit up here and try to act like there's no reasons. Fuck out of here. But anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.